Oh, I'm going fishing. No matter what, I'm going fishing today. Cabin fever has been taking me down. And I'm going to take you guys to, I'm going to go to a real special place today that I found last week. Actually, I think I took some video of it. And maybe, well, if I did, I'll put it in the beginning of this video so you can see where I'm going. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I'm either going to fly fish it for steelhead, or I'm going to, I really want to throw the camera in that pool underneath that waterfall, see what's laying in there, and the other pools. I just want to see what's in there. I think it's so cool to see that life down there. But before I go, I'm getting this out. Get these voices heard right now. There's a whole bunch of topics I'd love to talk on. I gotta bite my lip sometimes. Man, I was talking to Dave Pilatus late last night and woke up talking to him again this morning. I'll tell you what, some of the shit going on right now on the planet is mind-boggling. In our face, mind-boggling. And the amount of people that just turn a blind eye and a deaf ear is very frustrating. I'll bite my lip now. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I gotta share this one right away. It's got some video on it. And I already watched the video. It's one of those videos I loaded off the computer yesterday, and I looked at it again. I found the name, Googled up the search into my inbox, found the email. And it's funny, when people send photographs of tracks, photograph of a track is a real hard thing to do. It's not that easy. And a lot of them just get glanced at and looked over. As usual, anyway. Here come the chickens for the attack, little bastards. And but this person included a video of the track, and that was pretty impressive to me, because if you look at this video closely, you can see the impact in that soft ground basically made it almost, the whole print turned to mud, and then the size of the footprint compared to the man's foot was substantial, right? But if you look closely, you can see where that green leaf makes an absolute sharp 90-degree turn from being fluffy green leaf to stomped out like he was in a frickin' hydraulic press. Something else. Why these chickens terrorize me, I haven't a clue. Anyway, so let's read this one, and I'll show you that video along with it and the photographs he included, okay? This is titled, Target Buck Steve and Confirmation question mark. Hello, Steve. Here's my situation regarding Sabe. As you know, I've been trying to get Steve for 2 years now. For those wondering who Steve is, he's a beautiful mature buck that I've named Steve after the creator of the app I use to find him. Well, that's good news. I get a lot of people having success from my hunting apps. I love hearing that. And I don't think... Anyway, I'll keep going here. I've had some very interesting happenings, to say the least. The first couple were included in my first email, and I think it was Lady Huntress, if you're interested in watching again. The others I thought were just crazy coincidental events of 2020, but I'll let you be the judge. When I first come upon the area, I was finding great signs everywhere. The area is very steep and exhausting to hike. Typical. I found myself slipping while stepping on a rotten log, landing on my back. That's not good. I wasn't hurt and carried on with my shed hunt. More on this later. It was very hot. I was getting frustrated and remember thinking to myself, just throw me a bone. I continued for about another hour, decided my legs really only had enough left to get me down out of there. So for all you know, shed hunting is looking for antlers that have fallen off antler game, like moose, elk, caribou, and deer. It's a fun thing to do in the springtime, to hike the trails and get in shape and learn your zone, and a lot of people do, including me. You hike around looking for that antler on the ground, and black-tailed deer antlers are very hard to find. So he's getting frustrated not finding one. I used the same game trail to head back to my truck as I did to enter the area. Just before I reached the top of the cut block, the truck parked about the midway, I noticed the beautiful chocolate brown shed right on the trail. The match was found another 10 feet down the trail. I was so pumped to continue down to my truck. No way, you got both sides. Crazy. That was game on for mission Target Buck Steve. As I was gearing down, I noticed my knife was gone. I concluded that I lost it when I fell earlier. I also realized that I should have seen the shed on my way in. It's possible that I did miss it, highly unlikely due to the grade of the mountain and having to spot almost every step. But possibly I did miss them. Still gearing down, I was at my truck and I could hear voices coming from 100 or so yards away. remember thinking, why would anyone be down there? Again, another possibility of people hiking. I was pretty high up the mountain and I didn't see any vehicles on the way out. I shrugged off the voices as hikers in the middle of nowhere. I even went to a lower road to see if there was any vehicle and found nothing. At the time I wasn't aware of the samurai chatter, but ironically you mentioned it in the video where you read my email. Coincidence of hikers in the middle of nowhere on a crazy steep terrain? Definitely a possibility. My next outing to the area, I was just getting on the game trail, and there on the trail was my knife I lost in my last outing. The handle was missing and the rubber grip. The handle was missing, the rubber grip. Oh, the handle was missing the rubber grip, but I was happy to find it. Coincidence? Possibly. I carried on with the hike, changed my trail cam's SD card, and later decided to head down. As I'm going down, I thought I could hear bipedal footsteps. I stopped and started a couple of times and didn't hear anything. I dismissed that as my heartbeat. As I went through these coincidences, I never felt fear. I did, however, speed up my pace. On my last outing, which was just before the record rainfall we received, I had the craziest experience to date. I was driving and noticed a doe with older twins cross the road. I decided to drive a kilometer further down, hike back, and see if Daddy was with them. I got out of my truck, grabbed my pack and rifle. Across the road, I noticed a bare patch just off to the side. I went to have a closer look, and it looked like a crane outrigged was placed there. A crane outrigger was placed there. Well, upon the closer look, I realized it was a print. It was embedded around 2 inches in the earth, 20 inches long, and roughly 8 to 9 inches wide, with visible toe prints. I was thinking to myself that it was a mini scrape, a grizzly, front and rear track, or maybe a rock had been moved. Not the case upon further investigation. This was fresh, and I'm talking water seeping into it fresh. The moss and vegetation was completely compressed to the point where all the green moss and everything in the track looked like bean sprouts. I'm very familiar with tracks, and I'm 95% this could be an original Save track. It's a left track, and there was a right and another left that were noticeable but on a harder surface closer to the road. And yes, you guessed it, at least 7 to 8 feet apart. I'm almost 6 feet. I wasn't able to reach with my arms spread. In conclusion, Steve, I'd appreciate your professional opinion on the track. I've been watching you for about 1.5 years now, and you definitely are a pro. Pray for strength, guidance, protection daily. Things are shifting, and there's too much evil on our planet. We need to turn down the suck and turn up the good. Days are numbered, my friend. I'm no preacher, but I will tell you as a man of God, there's all there in the Bible in black and white. Men must be men and not fall into this Peter Pan syndrome. Grow a set and raise your children. It's time to take back what's trying to be taken from us. Count me in for the Good Guy Army. You know where to find me. God bless and take care, Steve. All right, man. Absolutely appreciate the photos and the video. And you know, when you look at the photo, at first I would think, you know, being a hunter guy, I'd be like, oh, well, I mean, obviously that's not a track. I mean, there's no other green around it. And then you look closer, especially that video, and then you see the crazy 90-degree bend, like in the one leaf up in the toe. Green leaf, absolutely curved, and then boom, flat, as if you stomped it with an anvil. Crazy. That's a big freaking foot, right? And the chickens are tearing apart at the shop. Anyway, yeah, my professional opinion on tracks, that's something frickin' heavy and big. 110%. Obvious the ground's absolutely saturated there. That's why the whole print looks like mud when it got stomped on, right? You know, I've seen other prints in the forest where people have said, look at this footprint right here. And it's stomped down the ground, but it's dry ground, and there's nothing in the print relative to the ground right beside it on either side, as in twigs, pine needles, or anything. There's just nothing there. It's just all of a sudden here's this dirt mark, the shape of a print, but it doesn't quite make sense because it's dry ground, and the dry ground's going to be uniform in coverings all the way down, and stomped in is going to be kind of stomped down, and you can tell. But this picture here, the video, for me, it was what really caught my attention when I was looking at it when you sent it. And obviously I'm no psychic, none of us are, but if you're an experienced hunter in the Pacific Northwest or anywhere, you know right away what did or did not make that mark in the ground, right? Keep us posted. Make sure you let them know that you don't want any grief next time you go there, right? Alright, here's another one titled, In Finland Also. So, we are all making our way around the planet, steadily, on this channel. Hello Steve, greetings from Finland. I've been following your channel for nearly 3 years now and I love it. Both hunting stories and Sasquatch knowledge, and it's only because of the experiences people share that I was able to put these things together. So, now to the happenings. Our cabin is in the middle of Finland, by a lake, surrounded by forest and sand road. We have neighbors on both sides of us, but the cabins are usually used only during summer. First odd story I know comes from my own father. Ever since I was a child, I was told my father saw once a pair of red eyes shining in the darkness of the woods by our outhouse, and since then there would be an axe in there for safety, though no one believed him. Second is from my sister. When she was a child, she was going out in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, but heard terrible rumbling growl from beneath the stairs that led to the upstairs of our cabin and decided not to go. I had a few experiences myself there. I used to spend all my childhood summers there with my uncle, grandmother, and cousins. Me and my cousins loved to camp out on our yard with their rough collie. This one time we were woken by their dog softly growling. We all sat up in a panic, and just then we heard steps from outside the tent like someone was walking around it, brushing against the tent. We had to hold the dog in place, keep it quiet as to not provoke whatever was outside. We sat there crying in panic for what seemed like hours. But when finally the dog calmed down, we took the courage to grab our stuff and run inside of the dog. My sister also had similar experience when she was older and sleeping in a tent with her husband and 2 small boys. Something circled the tent in the middle of the night, brushing against it, before leaving without a sound. That was the odd thing in both occasions. The creature made no sounds, no sniffing, no breathing, nothing, just steps. The same dog played a huge part in these 2 other situations where I found myself. One, I was at the cabin again with my uncle and granny, around 10 years old, and my uncle had to take the car and go to the store. He left me, granny, and his dog at the cabin, and usually it was fine. Not this time. We were sitting in the big living room / kitchen downstairs, the dog sleeping quietly. Now to understand the situation, you have to know the layout. Our cabin is built inside a small hill. Yes, you read that right. Inside, the front yard is on a little bit of a higher level than the backyard that backs up to the lake. So on the front of the house, there are these small windows that seem to be on the ground level. But when you circle the house and go inside downstairs, those same windows are almost on the roof level of the room. That sounds pretty cool. So the dog slept by those little windows looking towards the front yard, and all of a sudden he leapt up from deep sleep to his hind legs, barking and growling out from the closed window to the front yard. I got scared and it made me need to use the bathroom, but it meant going outside. I told this to Granny, who was acting like nothing odd was happening, and she told me she would take me to the outhouse. First I refused because the dog was still going apeshit, but I really had to go. So we opened the door and the dog bolted to the fence that circled our yard. It was open, but the dog never passed the line, no matter what. So he just kept running back and forth by the fence, growling and barking like crazy. And then he just stopped and walked back like nothing. Another occasion, when I was in the woods with my uncle, Granny, and the same dog Jessie, I was exploring around this abandoned house while my uncle was gathering wood. My granny was picking berries and mushrooms, and Jessie the dog was right beside me, because he never let children out of his sight. There was this huge pine tree that Jessie began to circle, and all of a sudden began barking and growling around it. And when I say the tree was huge, I mean it. The diameter was around 1.3 to 1.5 meters. I had no idea what he began to bark at, but it made me run to the car. Jessie right on my heels, and we sat inside the car until my uncle and granny came back. I've also experienced the dead silence only once. I was around 13 or so when I stayed alone at the cabin with my cousin's son, who was a year younger than me, when all the adults went either to the store 20 kilometers away or berry picking in the forest nearby. As soon as the cars left the yard, me and my cousin's son stood there wondering what should we do first, now that we had the cabin to ourselves. We didn't get that far because all of a sudden we both kind of looked at each other, started to scan around the yard, and realized there was absolutely no sounds around us whatsoever. I probably never bolted so fast up the stairs and into our room with my cousin's son right at my heels. We locked the door and sat on the bed shivering and wondering what the F was that. We didn't come out until the adults came back. The forest around our cabin has always had the feeling of stay the F away. It makes you scan it with your eyes like a goddamn predator, just waiting to see something moving, your hair standing on end. Why? No idea. Sorry for the long story, but I really had to get this off my chest. I've never heard of any Sasquatch sighting in Finland apart from one in 2017. So, if there's anyone from around here listening, you haven't experienced yourself, please share it. I really don't even know if these experiences have anything to do with the Sasquatch. If someone has a better idea what this could be, do tell. Best regards, Danny. Danny, thanks for that. And for all you out there who might think that that may not be worthy of sharing with the world, just so you know, when the dead silence, when you experience the dead silence of everything going, obviously it's a substantial experience, all right? Because we have all been in the forest or been somewhere where it's real quiet, no wind, and dead peaceful, and very quiet, you can't hear anything. But this particular experience, when you have the absolute loss of sound everywhere, and your hair starts standing on end, that's a very, very uncommon feeling and sensation, and it has such an impact on you, you never forget it, and it knee-jerks you into needing to write, to share it with the people, right? That's a substantial experience. It's not your average feeling, and I know it's probably tough to get that across to all of us in an email, but just so you know, it's very substantial, it's alarming, it's something you will not forget, right? And it's something that can cause you to really want the answers, never forget it, and write out to the planet like these people are. They're here to find out how many more people have had that happen, right? Finland, I'll guarantee you there's experiences there. You just got to talk more about it. Look people in the eye and ask them. People that work in the forest or live rural, just look them in the eye and ask them what's up, right? This is titled My Story, My Nightmare. Hi Steve, I wrote you my story last month. I still watch your video. What I understand is that I have to follow my gut instinct. Well, what is wrong if it tells me to stay out of the woods? Give me some advice, please, because it is happening very often. What should I do? Thanks for your time. Alright, so it goes into also the original emails copied underneath. I'll read it. I'm glad to open up finally. First, excuse my English, I'm French Canadian. Please keep my name unknown. I grew up in a small town near Montreal, but I have a friend whose family come from the city of Val d'Or. 2004 October, we went hunting in that region. We drove about an hour on a dirt road to the hunting family site of my friend. After his father took place in his cache, my friend left me on the second cache. He continued to his site. Alright, so a cache is going to be, for not familiar, that's obviously like a hunting stand or a blind, okay? We had everything for the day, waiting for the sun to come up. It was a long day, not a noise in the woods, nothing. Around 15 H behind me, started to hear movement, so that could either be meters or feet. I had the wind at my back, I was well hidden. I told myself, perfect. I armed my bow, I was ready to end my hunt on the first day. Then everything became strange. I heard a big wood knock very close behind that scared me like crazy. I started to ask myself a lot of questions, but did not want to move. In my body, everything became alerted. Something was wrong. This thing continued to my right, but then a disgusting smell. Beat it. Out here. There's a rooster chasing a hen around a circus by the camera. In my head, asking myself, what is going on here? I could not move. Finally, after a few seconds, that took like hours, I turned my head very slightly to my right. What I saw about 75 feet from me changed my life forever. My heart stopped. I was looking at a Bigfoot. This is impossible. Not exactly like in the film. I told myself the arms are very long. He's about 7 feet, very large shoulder, hairy brown and gray. I stayed there until it went further in the heavy scrap woods. I could not see it anymore. I jump up, cleared my bow, and run like crazy. Okay, cleared your bow, so you probably had a crossbow. I reached my friend's father in a few minutes, but I was still shaken. I shut my mouth until my friend came back at 17 hours. We went back to my friend's house, could not say a word on the trip back. When we arrived, I took a good shower, rest for the night. I was able to regain my control. The other morning, my friend woke me up, told me to get ready. My response, no thanks. I never told anyone about this. I never went back hunting there. It took me a few years before I could go back hunting. And believe me, Bigfoot is real. And he's living in Quebec. Thanks for your time. No name, no problem. It's tough, man. It can be real tough. It can be real tough to get across, get past that barrier that's created instantly when you see one of these damn things or experience it, right? It's gonna be real tough. Many people have just up and sold their home and moved their family, sold all their outdoor stuff and went straight to suburbia and never looked back. Lots. And then you also got other people that see the things, become obsessed with them, they can't get in the forest enough to try to run them down. Go figure. But you've already heard me babble about this a lot. For me, you just say it out loud what your intentions are, leave me the F alone and stay away from me and I give a shit. Somewhat works for me. They let me know they're there. Every year they let me know they are there somehow, some way. Whether it be by those lights. Remember I videotaped that bright light up on the mountain there last year at 4:35 in the morning. Crazy lights on my trail camera. I've heard them, had them throw things at me. I find tracks at least once a year. Excuse me. But it is what it is. If your gut is really telling you to stay the hell out of the woods, unfortunately you gotta listen to it. And I always refer back to, as a clear example, of that lunatic, the grizzly man, or whatever he called himself, that guy, the ex-heroin addict from California, who forced his girlfriend to go to Alaska with him to sleep on the ground with the bears, and she, before they even left California, she told him she didn't want to go. She's terrified to go. I don't want to go. It doesn't feel right. I don't want to go. She went anyways and the bear killed her. So that is, unfortunately, a very good example of going against your gut instinct. But you got to be in tune with it because there's a difference. You can be nervous, leery, on point, alert, or your tummy can be making you feel absolutely sick about what you're about to do. And that's what you have to focus in on and realize the difference between our typical emotions, right? I feel nervous lots out in the woods, obviously, for good reason, right? But rarely do I have a strong feeling of, don't you come in the woods. I got places I just avoid because I know that the chances are right up there of something happening. I'm just not into it. I'm not into it. And why am I so not into it? Is because I don't want it absolutely ruined. I've come across and spoken to too many people who have had their passion for the outdoors in life absolutely shit on and annihilated. That's not fair. And I know that I push the envelope often myself, but I don't want it ruined. I mean, if I cannot go out and enjoy what I'm passionate about, I'm dead. I'm dead. What am I going to do? Golf? No. But anyway, just be safe out there. Thanks for writing in again. And I'm obviously I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychic. I can't tell anybody what to do or what they shouldn't do. All I can do is offer up what I've learned for myself and what everybody else is doing here is offering up to the world what they have learned themselves too, right? Alright, what's this one? One more, and then I'm going to get out of here. And hopefully, well, either way, I'm going to film some cool shit today. Get that rod in the water and good enough, but I never know. Flowers on the Trails, title this one. Hi Steve, I've had an experience before when I was a kid. I did send that in and you did read it to the people on your channel. So I do appreciate that and thank you. It was surprisingly liberating. Good news. This experience happened in May of this year, 2021, on the edge of town here in Virginia, USA. On the edge of town there's a golf course alongside a protected swamp. The swamp is about 1,400 acres in size. Near the golf course There's a simple 2-mile hiking trail that goes into part of the swamp, to only end up back at the golf course parking lot. There are houses built up to the side of the swamp near the golf course too. After that, the swamp just goes way back in there. I had a deep vein blood clot in my left leg and had that vein removed. Ugh. After the treatment, about 8 days or so, I had a bad case of cabin fever. I remember the simple swamp hiking trail. I remembered the simple swamp hiking trail, so I decided to take the leg out for a spin, so to speak. I've been on this trail once before, and near the turnaround loop of this easy hiking trail, I did feel uneasy about this area, even though at this spot you can see some houses nearby through the trees. At this time I was all a part of your channel and the people sharing their encounters and experiences, so I was full of wonderful knowledge. But this time I didn't even think of that stuff because of my leg and how I was surprised how tired I was getting. Totally disappointed in myself. Once again it came to this turnaround loop of this trail that the pressure I felt before I returned. This time I wasn't frozen in fear and full of dread like my childhood experience. I just knew there was something up. Probably a little more than that. More like an invisible wall in the forest. It was there by my mental pressure coming from the swamp side of the turnaround loop of the trail. But like last time on this trail, I was uneasy. I found myself staring at this big dead tree. The bark was off of it and almost white from being dead and dried out, about 50 yards away. This tree had fallen against another tree and still standing at about 45-degree angle. I wanted to go back in there and walk past the tree where it seemed this pressure was coming from. But I got a no way thought from my own mind. Just me saying, I feel a hard no, not to go back there. So I turned down the trail back to the parking lot. I saw on the ground just ahead of me 3 flower tops. Just the flower laying on the trail. I don't know my flowers because I'm new to Virginia, originally from Wyoming, but the flower were large, about the size of a woman's fist. Kind of a ball-like shape because the flower petals were mostly closed. They were picked not long ago. They were still vibrant, but just almost closed. Maybe the 3 flowers were picked from the flower garden from one of these nearby homes. It wasn't a flower from the forest. Thinking now it was a lily pad flower. Not sure about the situation. I look at it as I'm a marked soul for experiencing them before as a kid, and they somehow know this. Plus, they maybe remember me from when I hiked here before, when I came earlier in the spring when it was still chilly. But for now, for me, it was a get-well-soon gift from the form of a flower. Not sure, of course, but one can only imagine at this point. My leg is still giving me problems, but I'll go back to the trail to work it out. Thank you. Oh, from Virginia, USA. Did you say to use your name or no? Patrick Patterson. All right, man. James Patrick Patterson. Thanks for that email. I have a clue. Sounds pretty tame to me, but if you got the feeling, you got the feeling. I know one thing was last spring. There's a deer that I've been after following for 5 or 6 years. And every spring, I've probably put in at least a solid week or 2 hiking all those mountains looking for shed antlers. And I took pictures of this. I didn't see anything. I haven't mentioned anything until now, but whatever. It is what it is. Maybe it's worthy of a mention, maybe it's not. But there's a major game trail, migration trail. It's that wide. It's in big timber, huge fir trees. Like these suckers are 6-7 foot at the base thick, plus, and cedars. And I went down that trail, and I'm not finding an antler on this mountain for quite a while. The wolves cleaned all the deer up. I used to be able to get a backpack of antlers pretty quick, but I hadn't found one antler in a long time. And I walked down that trail, and I am looking. Like I usually walk, I stand, I look everywhere. And I take a few more steps, I look everywhere on a steep bluff. So this one trail cuts along the side of the mountain to the timber. And on the way out, here is one of the deer's antlers, the huge bucket I'm after. It's an antler that looked like to be over a year old. And that sucker is sitting right in the middle of the trail that I came in on. And believe me, there's not one human being on that mountain. Never has been. In the 18 years I've been running that mountain and I've had trail cameras all over it, I've never had a human being on my camera once. I've never seen another boot print once. But there has been sightings of these things right across the valley and on the other side of the hill that I'm on. And where I had those crazy lights over eyeballs on my trail camera was only about a mile that way from where this antler was. And I remember looking at it thinking, I'm looking around because that antler was 100% placed there. Now obviously a coyote could have ran with his mouth, a wolf, whatever. But on average I haven't seen a wild canine chew on shed antlers yet. And they definitely do not have time to be packing them around in their mouth. They don't do that. So I was tempted to throw down a bag of apples and hang it off a branch and say, okay, here you go, man. Is this like a little bit of a peace offering? Maybe they get a kick out of watching me look for antlers. I have felt nervous around that area. I know they are there. Do I think somebody placed that antler there? For me, in my mind, 110% that thing was placed there. Not a doubt. Why didn't I leave something as a gift back? Because I'm not looking to get into a relationship with these things. I'm just not into it. I like the way things are going now. You hang out here, I hang out here, we just leave each other alone. Thanks for the antler, right? But no, I'm just not into it. Not into it, you know? I don't want to go to my favorite place in the whole world and potentially have a broad daylight, 7 to 10 to 12 foot tall hairy being standing there looking at me. I'm just not into it right now. Maybe I will be later on in life, I don't know. But right now, I'm not into it, man. I don't want to risk never wanting to go to one of my favorite places ever again. It's not worth the gamble for me at this point, right? But anyway, that's the only thing I can relate to what you just shared, myself personally. I'm sure there's a whole pile of people out there have reported having things left for them on their porches, on their stairs, on their car, on their tent, on their picnic table, beside the fire. It goes on and on and on. But anyway, I gotta get going. I gotta go in the woods. And I'm gonna bring my rods. I'm gonna bring my bait caster with the camera on. I'm gonna bring my new fly rod and see if maybe I'll get something to strike one of the steelhead flies. And what happened last night? Last night Sarah made a bison burger, one for all bison burger. It was so good. It was absolutely ridiculous. From our friends at the Venator Ranch, Hudson Hope, they raise bison there, sorry. Excuse me, and that meat is so lean and so freaking healthy. It's so good, it's ridiculous. And well, you can see a couple tricks in there that we do with our game ground burger to make it fit the bun. It was so good. But anyway, we're pretty excited. Sarah's excited. There's a huge positive reaction with the channel. And I think the subscriptions rocketed up to like 1,800 people last evening in the first handful of hours. And then all of a sudden YouTube chopped her off down to 200 subscribers from 1,800 like that. We don't know why. I don't know why. I haven't a clue. But anyway, we'll post a link to that video in the description below. If you are interested in what goes on in the kitchen of a hunter-gatherer fisher family, there's going to be a lot in there, tons. And check it out. Subscribe if you want, if you're interested or not. And but it's there anyways. And that's that. My brain's racing. I got stuff I gotta get going on before I can leave, and I really want to leave bad. I'll be back with more. I got more videos, more audios emailed in to share with you guys that I have put in a file folder. And we'll leave it at that. One other quick mention. A lot of people email me to watch a podcast with Dr. Where is... Oh, it's not here right now. Oh, hold on, I texted to Dave. Go on that text thread. And I don't have... Oh, there's Dr. Maloney. M-A-L-O-N-E, medical doctor. And I watch a podcast with him and Joe Rogan. You got time, listen to it. No matter what your stance is on anything, listen to the doctor. Alright? If it doesn't make you angry, you're probably the living dead, I'll tell you what. Talk to you guys shortly.